Today I will talk about my rules when dating a guy, and I will talk about what I personally think is the norm when you go on dates with a guy or when you already start on dating him and being with him in a relationship. Hi, my name is Rebecca and welcome back to my YouTube channel. First, I will start with the self-explanatory rules, which for some might not even be that self-explanatory, so I will mention them right from the get-go. The very first one, whenever you are seeing a guy, you should ask him whether there's anyone that thinks that they're in a relationship with him. And honestly, that might sound so stupid to you right now, but there's so many situationships going on in our generation, and maybe the guy you're talking to is in fact in one, or maybe he's stuck up on his ex, and you should never be in a position where you talk to a guy that is either in a relationship, in a situationship, or stuck up on his ex, because in all those three situations you're doing yourself a massive disfavor. So even though it might sound stupid, I would just ask him straight up after a few dates whether there is someone who thinks that they are in a relationship with him. Second of all, which might also seem very obvious, but it's not that obvious, the guy needs to be emotionally available. There are so many girls out there that go for emotionally unavailable guys, and they think that they will be the girl that will change the guy. And guess what? That never happens. Because whenever someone is emotionally unavailable, you need to understand that it's not up to you to change that. Only the guy himself can decide whether he's emotionally available or unavailable. Why would you want to be freely with a guy that isn't emotionally available? Do you want to be the one chasing him? Do you have some sort of self-worth issue? Because you will never be attracted to emotionally unavailable men when you know your self-worth and the love you have for yourself. Because as I said in my previous video, check it out if you want, where I talk about disrespect, the love for yourself should always prevail. The third rule is for me a big thing. I don't split the bill, and I will never split the bill with the guy. Why? Because my dad would never split the bill with my mom, and I was raised in an environment where the man always provided. And if my dad gives me princess treatment, why would I settle for a guy that doesn't? Why would I settle for a guy that I would need to split the bill with? And I know this is a very controversial topic, and there are a lot of girls out there that would split the bill with the guy, bless them, but that's not my case, and I would never do it. And I truly believe that if the guy truly loves you, he will never make you split the bill with him. And an example that I can think of is, for example, Taylor Swift at the Super Bowl. Her current boyfriend paid for the whole thing, while when he was dating his ex, he split with her. And Taylor Swift has way more money than his ex-girlfriend or he himself, but since he loves her so much and he wants to provide for her as a man, he split the bill with her. And if you are a girl who lets guys split the bill with them, you're just allowing him to do so. And that also explains why some guys split the bill with one girl and don't split the bill with the other girl, because they know exactly whether you're the type of girl that wouldn't mind to split the bill with them, or if you're a girl that knows your standard and knows that you want a provider man. And trust me when I say this, a guy feels good when he actually pays for you and does not split the bill with you, because he can actually show his masculine side, that he's a provider. And I truly believe that this shows the distinction between the feminine and the masculine energy. That doesn't mean that the girl shouldn't work on herself and educate herself and be able to provide for herself. But when she has a man on her side, it doesn't matter how much she earns herself. He should always be the one paying the bills and providing for her. So if you do want to split the bill with me at any sort of time, for me it would be very clear that we're just friends. Because when we're just friends, I don't mind splitting the bill. And even though we're friends, I have a lot of male friends that would also never make me split the bill with them. And honestly, I don't think splitting the bill is being a gold digger. It just means that you know your worth, you know what type of man you want, and that you will never settle for less, especially when you grew up in such an environment where your dad was always the one providing for you. And just like the guys go for someone who is similar to their mother, the daughter will also always go for someone similar as her dad, especially when it comes to the way he was treating her. Another point, I'm not into guys my age, I'm into men because I truly believe that with an older guy, there is much more potential of seeing a future, and I would want to be with a person with who I can grow and experience that personal growth. And I believe that when a man is older than you, there will be a much better and healthier relationship than with a guy your age. Because a lot of times what I see nowadays is that people just date out of convenience just because they want to be in a relationship or because their friends are in a relationship. But if a guy is not goal-oriented, not ambitious, and I cannot see a future with him, I think that having a relationship with him is pointless. And to be honest, I could have been in plenty relationships. I just choose not to be because I actually want something special and to have a worthy man by my side who I can see a future with and who I can build a long-lasting relationship with, and not something that is just out of convenience, pointless, and for a short period of time. So if I were you, I would also never settle for someone that is just good looking or that you have a fun time with. You also need to see it in the long run, because I just think to myself, if you cannot see this relationship going in the future, why be with the person in the first place? I personally think it's nonsense. My next rule, the man needs to be a gentleman. He needs to pick me up from home. He needs to open the door for me. He needs to bring me home before he brings himself home. All those things, they are very self-explanatory to me. And I think that it's exactly those gestures that distinguish a normal guy or a man from a gentleman. Because a gentleman always will know how to take care of his lady. Now to my next rule, and with this rule I'm really strict. If someone doesn't reply in a time span of 24 hours, they will never hear back from me. Why? Some guys might say that I'm petty and that I just don't want to reply to them, but in reality, why would I want to reply to someone that needs 24 hours to respond to me? Because that just clearly shows that I'm not one of his priorities, because I think every person has enough time during their day to respond within 24 hours, because I think every person actually responds usually in 1 or 2 hours or even less than that. So why be with a guy that can respond to you in a day? Because it's what I said before, you're clearly not his priority, and why would you want to be with someone who doesn't even see you as a priority? That's why I personally don't ever respond to guys if they ever respond to me after 24 hours, because I just think to myself, why would I need such a man in my life? I don't. Also, my next rule, if I get disrespected in any sort of way, I will cut that guy off from the get-go. Why? Because if there's one thing I learned, that it's better to cut things off from the very beginning before it gets too serious and you let things slide. Because I know it from myself, because I'm a girl and I know that a lot of girls do that. They just find excuses and they just let it slide when they have been disrespected. But then it gets more serious and it just gets more complicated. So I truly believe that when you get disrespected in any sort of way, it's better to cut it off from the get-go rather than drag it along and get disrespected in the long run, where it's more complicated to cut things off than from the very beginning. And also, I'm this type of person, I will never tell a guy what he can and cannot do, because I'm this type of person, I prefer to see the true colors of a person, and if they don't align with how I expect a guy to be, then I'm just gonna walk away. And if the guy ever asks me, I will be very honest with him, but I think that it's very obvious that there's just some certain things that you cannot do. If they do those obvious no's and I find out about it, and they need to deal with the consequence, aka them not having me in their life. My next rule is that the man's action always needs to speak louder than his words. Obviously, it's nice when someone tells you how much you mean to them, how much they love you, how much they care for you. But if this is not justified by their behavior, then their words are simply pointless. Because you should always judge a man by his actions, and it doesn't matter what love language you guys have. You might have a completely different one, but the man will show you in his own love language that he does care for you and how much you mean to him. And if he knows your love language yet still doesn't do what you would like him to do, it just shows that you're clearly with the wrong person and you are at the wrong address. Because a guy that knows your love language will always try to please you and to satisfy you. Also, what I personally think is a red flag in a guy is when he doesn't plan out certain things, especially for Valentine's Day, for Women's Day, especially when he knows it's important for you. Because I think giving flowers, whether it's on Valentine's Day or a normal day, just the bare minimum. He should just do it anyway because of how much he loves you. Because I personally believe that a guy who doesn't believe that he needs to ask his girlfriend to be his Valentine, in my opinion, that's a red flag. It's that special day of the year where you can actually show how much your significant other means to you and you can show them how much love you actually have for them. So whenever you're in a relationship with someone and they don't plan anything for Valentine's Day, in my opinion, that's a red flag. And with that comes my next important point. There should be clear communication between you guys. The guy needs to be able to communicate with you what he wants and if he actually sees something with you. Because if there's no communication, the relationship will never work from the beginning. Also, the man needs to be dominant and have balls. If his ego is bigger than his balls, that's personally a no-go for me. Because why would you choose to date a weak-ass guy that cannot express how he feels and that has no balls, meaning that he can be completely direct with you? And I understand that at some point of your life, you might have the appeal to chase after a guy that can be direct with you, or he isn't the usual type that you would go for. But honestly, I had such an experience and then I realized, no, thank you. The only man that I would want in my life is a man that clearly knows what he wants and that has balls and can express to me directly how he feels towards me. If this is all in curves and not in a direct way and he cannot directly communicate with me, it's a no-go for me. Which also leads me to my second to last point, that you should choose a guy with who you can directly communicate with and a guy who does have the balls to tell you how he feels about you, because like that you are always going to be in your feminine energy because you're the one that is being chased. Whenever you feel like you're the one starting to chase a guy or you like the guy more than he likes you, the relationship will never work out. Because just think about it. You are like a flower that blooms. Whenever you start to date a guy that you like more than he likes you, you deflower. But whenever a guy likes you slightly more than you like him and he actually chases after you and you're in your feminine energy, then you start to shine bright like a flower. Now I'm coming to my last point, that you should never talk about your ex whenever you're seeing someone new. And if they do ask you about your ex, you should never talk shit about them, because that A, shows that you're not over your ex, or B, if you mention that your ex treated you badly, then they will understand that they can treat you badly as well. If I were you, I would never say that any ex treated me badly, because why would you want to tell someone that there was someone who treated you shitty? Because that just shows to the other person that you don't have any boundaries for yourself and that you accepted this kind of behavior in the past. And they will think to themselves, why would you not accept the same type of bad treatment now? So try never to bring up your ex. And if this topic happens to be a conversation, never say that you were treated badly. Always say that everything went well, treat you like a princess, because then they will also know that this is your standard. You will never take anything that's below that. Once you say that your ex was shit and he treated you shit, guess where the person will think that your standard is? Below the floor. With that being said, never settle and never rush to be in a relationship. Because just think about it. You might see so many relationships around you, but how many relationships do you look at and you're like, damn, wow, that's an amazing relationship? I personally don't see any relationship around me where I'm like, wow, this relationship is so worth it. It's 9 out of 10 times. Obviously, there are relationships that are great, but just because someone else has a great relationship doesn't mean that you need to feel sad about it. Because once the time comes that you are supposed to be in a relationship, you will be in a relationship. But before the time comes, first of all, learn to fulfill yourself before you will be able to fulfill your partner. And remember, if there is a guy that wouldn't do what you expect him to do, there will be someone else who would give you the world. So instead of settling for a fool, just wait a little bit longer, work on yourself, learn to fulfill yourself, and then also your dream man will come into your life. I hope you learned something from this video, and if you liked the video, leave a thumbs up and subscribe because a lot more is coming on my channel.